Hello again, 8th grade. We are back for part 2 of the graphite transfer, and as you can see here, I have my pelican perched on that little post there, and you can see that I've gone over my entire design now with graphite. I'm trying to show you the shine here. You can see that I've retraced all the areas that I want to print black. I've done the same thing around all of the borders, and it's looking pretty good. I took a moment to cut the excess off, and at this point my paper is exactly 4 inches by 6 inches, which is good because the block I'm going to be transferring to is also 4 by 6 inches. So if you've never used Easy Cut before, it tends to have a side that's a little bit shinier, like this side, and then if you flip it over, there's a side with a little bit more texture. Both sides will work, but I much prefer the shiny side, so I always start on this side, and if I have a major mistake, I can always try it again on the back, but I'm gonna work on the shiny side today for the graphite transfer. Before you even attempt the transfer, you should take a moment to set your image down with the graphite up to see if your paper lines up well with the rubber block. Now both of these have been hand cut, which means there could be imperfections or slight differences in width, so I'm just kind of playing around and seeing which way it fits the best. And mine's a pretty close match. It's not 100% perfect. There's a little bit of Easy Cut on the side, but I'm feeling pretty good about that. If there's a little bit of a discrepancy, we can make up for it later on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a piece of Scotch tape. I don't need much. I'm only taping one side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my design over so the graphite is now down on the block. And I don't want to press it anywhere where there's graphite. So I know this background is white, there's no graphite there. I'm just kind of using my hands here to make sure that it's centered as best as I can get it. And once I'm confident with the placement, I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to basically just create a little hinge here. So if I need to lift up my paper, I can make sure that it gets placed down in the correct spot. So right now I've got like a little bit of a hinge. You can see some of the graphite's already transferring here. So I'm going to make sure that this goes down into the place that I want it. Just moving it a little bit. And now the graphite transfer begins. I'm going to take a pencil. I don't want to use mechanical. I actually like to use a pretty dull wooden pencil because I don't want to accidentally pierce through the paper or stab my block behind. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be holding it down with one hand, and for me that's going to be my left hand, and I'm going to be starting the transfer with my right. So I'm going to take my pencil, and I want to be as generous with my overlapping as I can, because what's going to happen is you're going to see that that image is going to start transferring onto the block. I know that there's nothing here to transfer, so I don't have to fill all of this white area on mine. I'm really only focusing on the areas where I know that the graphite is there to transfer. And I want to overlap. It's better to do too much than not enough here. So I'm going back and forth. And once you start this process, you really want to keep going until you finish. You don't want to, leave it alone, walk away, come back a few minutes later, because your piece might have shifted a little bit. And we don't want our image to be kind of wonky when it transfers. You'll notice the paper will start to warp a little bit from the pressure. I didn't even start this yet, but you absolutely want to go over the border as well. So I'm kind of working top down, and I am going to do the whole thing for you on camera today, so sorry for making you watch the whole process. If you want to, you can peel up a corner. Look at that, I missed a spot there. Ooh, I wonder why that's not showing up. Interesting. I'm gonna go around the border here. Pardon the bell. I tried to avoid that. So I'm going around and around. You can see my borders transferring. I can already tell I'm gonna have to make a few adjustments once I pull this paper off. So we're just gonna make sure that it's working for now. You can see it's working. I'm gonna go back to the bird. So the reason you wanna do this with graphite and not just, you know, press on the back is because you're drawing with this new line that's going to show you where you've been and where you may have missed. So, and see how nice it is to use a dull pencil, because the dull pencil is going to create really thick pencil strokes. Just goes a little quicker. Kind of using my thumb here to control the stopping of the pencil. Going all the way up, make sure I get the beak. All the way to the bottom. I'm really rushing here. If I were taking this more seriously without an audience, I'd go slower, but border. Now I don't want to peel anything away for good until I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna kind of peel it away. Look at that, how satisfying. That looks beautiful. I'm feeling good about that. So as soon as I've done that, if I know that I'm done with my paper, I'm going to fold the tape over, and I'm not going to throw this away. If anything happens, and if I had to redo the design for any reason, I want to keep this as a reference. So fold the tape over, keep it, set it aside. Now, the most obvious place where I'm needing to adjust is the border. My lines got a little messed up from the transfer, but the cool thing is you can draw directly on the block. So I'm just putting my ruler down to protect me from going into that white space. And I'm just gonna use my pencil to fill in any gaps that I missed. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I do really want a nice clean stripe there. That looks much better. I'm gonna flip it to the other side. I think I might want to widen this just a hair to make it match the other side. Again, I'm going super quick. Please take care when you're working. I've also done this like 100 times, so I'm pretty used to it. But the ruler is always going to be your friend. Do not think you have magical powers to draw straight lines, because you don't, and neither do I. Do the same thing around the top, just kind of clean up that edge. Fill it in. I'm really happy with how my Pelican transferred. I don't really need to come back in and do any editing. You know, if something was a little bit lighter than I want it to be, I could always come back and clean that up. If you have smudges, because I have very dirty hands, if you have smudges or fingerprints, sometimes you can actually erase them if you need to. It's just satisfying. I think I will come back and just work on the details in the bird's foot a little bit. And I am gonna finish up this border at the bottom, and on mine I have it going behind the post. I just thought that would be kind of a cool detail to have part of the subject coming in front of the frame. Just a little bit of interesting spacing. All right, so you'll notice now this is the reverse image of the original one we started with, but the cool thing is once we carve it and print it, it will return to its original orientation. So that is the graphite transfer and a good stopping point for today.